Hey, welcome back to Mr. P. Helps with Algebra. This is U2T3, lesson number 7. We're solving a system of equations using elimination method or substitution method with real-life scenarios. Starts us off with a warm-up about evaluating expressions. In this case, we're going to change it into exponential form, which means change it so that it has an exponent involved. 4 times itself 5 times would be 4 to the 5th power. 3x times itself 3 times, and xy multiplied by itself 4 times. You do need the parentheses. Without the parentheses, this will be xy to the 4th, and not x to the 4th, y to the 4th. So the parentheses are important. 2 to the 3rd power, so now we're evaluating, so we're going to change it to what's called standard form. 2 to the 3rd power, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, and 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 again is 32. Negative 2 to the 3rd power, so negative times a negative is a positive, so that's positive 4 times a negative again would be negative 8. And negative 2, 4, negative 8, 16, negative 32, positive 64. And last but not least, if you have a negative exponent and you want to make it into a positive exponent, you just change it to its reciprocal. So that would be 1 over negative 9 to the positive second. And negative 9 times itself is 81. So that would be the simplified version of that. All right, so as mentioned before, we're going to be solving systems of equations, doing this kind of story, where Carlos has forgotten all of the prices of the dog food, and he only wrote down how much the total was and how many bags he got. So we're going to try to figure out, well, what was the price of each type of bag? So the first thing you do normally is you would write a let statement. Now, to save a little bit of time, I'm not going to write this in here, but we're going to make X represent Tabitha Tidbits and Y represent Figaro Flakes. So that means 3 times X plus 4 times Y equals $43. And then the next week he buys 3 bags of Tabitha Tidbits plus 6 bags of Figaro Flakes, and that equaled $54. All right, so perfect question for elimination method. And the reason why is because the X's are already the same. 4 minus 6 is negative 2y's equals, that would be 43 minus 54 is negative 11. Divide that by negative 2, and that means y has to be $5.50. Now, once I know the price of one bag, then all I got to do is plug it back in and solve for the other bag. 3x plus 4 times 550 equals $43. All right, so 5 times 450 makes $22. Bring everything else down that we didn't do anything with. Subtract 22 from both sides, we get 3x equals $21. Divide that by 3, and that means that Tabitha Tidbits must cost $7. All right, so for the next question, we're going to make Brutus Bites X and Mighty Mix Y. So that's 2 bags of Brutus Bites plus 3 bags of Mighty Mix equals $42.50. And the next week he's going to buy 5 bags of Brutus Bites plus 6 bags of Mighty Mix, and that's going to cost $94.25. Now, this time it's not as obvious because this time we don't have any X. The X's aren't the same coefficient and the Y's aren't the same coefficient. But what I do notice is that I can make the Y's the same pretty easily. If I double this, now I know what you're thinking, I can add 3y to both sides, but if I add 3y here, that's fine, and I can subtract it, but then I'd have to add 3y over here, because the addition property of equality states that you have to do the same to both sides. And if you do the same to both sides, then you're not going to be able to eliminate it on the right-hand side. So I'm going to multiply it. I'm going to multiply the entire top line. As long as you do it to the entire line, then you're not changing the value of anything. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2, so that turns this into 4x, that turns this into 6y, and that'll turn this into $85. And now I can subtract. So this is gone, so I've converted that into the new line at the bottom. So now I can subtract. This minus this makes 1x. I'll put it over here because I ran out of room. Or, you know what I'll do? I'll just erase it after I'm done. We have another issue here. Oh, there we go. So x equals, this minus this is nothing. And $94.25 minus $85 makes $9.25. So now I've got x. All I got to do is plug that back in for x. So 2 times $9.25 plus 3y equals 4250. Okay, so 2 times 925 is going to be 1850 plus 3y equals 4250. Subtract 1850 from both sides. I'm going to pull out my calculator here. So 4250 minus the 1850. It's going to give us a difference. Oh, that wasn't subtraction. Try that again. 4250 minus 1850 is going to be $24. So 3y is $24. 3 bags is $24. That means each bag's got to be 8. Just simply divide both sides by 3. All right, so I'm going to erase this so I can see the next question. Colors by 6 dog leashes. So X is going to represent the amount of leashes, and Y is going to represent brushes. So 6 leashes plus 6 brushes is $45. And while pampering the cats later, he buys 3 additional dog leashes. So that's 3 leashes here plus 2 cat brushes here equals $19. Now, when I look at this problem, once again I say to myself, well, they have different coefficients for X and for Y. What could I do to make them the same? Now, I've got 2 options here. Whereas the last question, there was only one obvious option. There was more than one option, but there was one easy way of doing it. In this case, I have 2 easy ways of doing it. I can multiply the bottom line by 2, which is what I'm going to do. And the reason why that works is because, there we go. The reason why that works is because if I multiply the bottom line by 2, that's going to make the x's the same. Or I could have multiplied the bottom line by 3, and that would have made the y's the same. So either way is going to work. So I'm going to put this new line up here. So that's 6x. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 2 times 2 is 4y, and 2 times 19 makes 38. Cross this off, don't need it anymore. Now I can easily eliminate using subtraction. This minus this makes nothing. 4 minus 6 makes negative 2y. 35 minus 45 makes negative 10. Divide both sides by negative 2, and that means y is 5. All right, so once I got y, I can once again plug it back in, easily solve for x. 6 times x plus 4 times 5, pen's not working so well right now, equals $35. No, that was, $35. No, $38, because 19 times 2 was 38. So that means 6x plus 20 equals 38. Subtract 20 from both sides. 6x equals 38 minus 20 makes 18. 18 divided by 6 makes $3. So it looks like the leashes cost $3 and the brushes cost $5. All right, so there's 3 examples right there of real-life scenarios. I'm going to, due to the fact I'm at 8 minutes already, I'm going to go right to the homework. The next 2 questions, I can talk about them. This one had returning involved. So when you return 3 unopened items, that's going to be negative 3x, or bought 2 more packages of dog bones, so that would be plus 2y. So that's what that would have looked like. That was the trick on that one. And on this one, you end up having nothing that you can multiply the top or the bottom line to make the x's or y's the same. So what you end up having to do is multiply the top and the bottom. You can do that by different numbers. You can multiply the top line by 2 and the bottom line by 3, and then you can make the x's the same that way. So that was the trick to that question. All right, Nadia and Peter visit the candy store. Nadia buys 3 candy bars. I'll make that x. Candy bars are going to be x, so that's 3x. And 4 fruit roll-ups, that will be y, so plus 4y for $2.84. And then Peter also buys 3 candy bars, but can only afford 1 fruit roll-up, and his price comes out to $1.79. Perfect question for elimination method because the x's already have the same coefficient. 4 minus 1 makes 3 y's, and $2.84 minus $1.79. Pull out the calculator again. So let's see. 284 minus 179 gives us $1.05. Divide that by 3, which means y, which is the fruit roll-ups, must be 35 cents each. All right, so once I've solved that for 35 cents each, then I'm going to take that, plug it back in. 3x plus 4 times 35 cents equals 284. All right, so 4 times 35 cents is $1.40. All right, now I can use the subtraction property of equality. So 284 minus $1.40 is $1.44. Divide that by 3, and that means that the candy bars must have costed 48 cents. Okay, so I'm going to erase that so I can look at number 11. A farmer noticed that his chickens were loose and were running around with cows in the cow pen. He quickly counted 100 heads and 270 legs. How many chickens and cows could he have had? So cows have 4 legs, so we'll make X for cows and Y for chickens. So 4 times X plus 2 times Y had to be 270 legs. And total heads, X plus Y equals 100. All right, I could do substitution method here. I could solve for either X or Y, then substitute into the other equation. Or I can use elimination method again. So I'm going to do elimination method. I'm going to multiply the bottom line by 2. And that's going to make this 2X and 2Y equals 200. And that crosses this off. I'm ready to subtract. 4X minus 2X is 2X. 270 minus 200 is 70. Divide both sides by 2 means X equals 35. So now we know there's 35 cows. If there's 35 cows and we add that to the chickens and it has to be 100 heads, that means there has to be 65 chickens. Done. All right. Once again, thank you for watching. Hope I was able to help you out with something. Please give it a like if I helped you learn something, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching. Have a